Good morning, everybody. It's the 24th of August, 2023, and my name is Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio, and thanks so much for being here today. All right, we have a wonderful guest for you today, someone I met yesterday. That's soon-to-be doctor, if I may. I can't call her yet, but in my mind, she's way beyond a doctorate there. Desiree Viramontes is here. Desiree is the coordinator of the Families in Transition program down in Round Rock, Texas, which is north of Austin, by the way. All right. 15 years of experience as an educator in and out of the classroom, 11 years in her current role as the coordinator of the Families in Transition program. And I had an opportunity to talk to her yesterday for a long time, and she is just an amazing educator, an amazing person, and what she's trying to do is going to talk about equity. I have that right here on the sheet. Talk about equity. Okay, so many. To me, it's almost impossible to even think that so many children are homeless. She's got the numbers to share. Okay, not in her district, but nationally as well. And homelessness. I mean, it's just amazing. And we want these kids to have an equitable education, and that's what she works at. The families are having troubles. We got to make sure that the kids get the education they deserve and grow on to become extremely productive citizens. And this is what Desiree does every day. All right. It's an aspect of education that is wonderful what she does, but one of the sadder sides of what we have to deal with these days. And as long as we're helping the kids, we're going to make it better. And today's show is presented to you by Varsity Tutors, my good friends. Okay, they found Desiree for me, and she's working with Varsity right now. And currently, tutoring is extremely important. Teachers are under stress. All right, they don't have the time these days, and the kids there's absenteeism, etc. The kids need the help when they need it. And Desiree is going to talk about how she's working with Varsity as well, because I want you all in your districts to be aware of how a program like this works. All right, so stay tuned we'll be right to Desiree in just a second. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org, where everything we do about equity is, because that's the home website of our American Consortium for Equity in Education. That's what we do, ace-ed.org. Everything's free for you over there. Our Equity Awards program. All our podcasts are there, and our magazine, our online journal, Equity and Access, which, by the way, is excellent. And again, everything is free for you. If you want to get in touch with me, like so many people do, please, Larry at ace-ed.org. Don't be shy. You can even complain if you want to. Okay, I'd love to hear from you. All right, Larry at ace-ed.org. And so without further ado, the one, the only, the future Doctor Desiree Viramontes. Hello again, Desiree. How are you today?
I'm good, Larry. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back here. She and I talked for a long time yesterday. Someday I'll explain that to you, but it worked out great. And this is going to be a wonderful podcast. I learned what an incredible educator, what an incredible person Desiree is. It's just amazing. And Desiree, did I leave anything out? When are you going to get that doctorate in, or when are you going to get it? Because if you went to the University of Larry, as I told you yesterday, you would have already had it.
Well, I am working on it. Had a couple barriers with COVID and my own virtual instruction that I had to do, and a car accident. So, but I am going to get there in the May of 2024 is my goal.
All right. I love it. I'm going to call you Dr. Viramontes. I don't care. Okay, what college are you going to get it? Where are you going?
University of Texas at Austin.
Good in a boo. It's a big school. That's a big school. Is. Okay, yeah, it's huge. Okay, great school too, by the way, I might add. That's terrific. All right. Anyway, all right, let's get started on this. And I was so impressed with you yesterday, and I wrote you that. You're just amazing on so many levels to me. It's unbelievable. Okay? What's going on out there? And you had some of the numbers yesterday. The primary challenges that you see, and you've been doing this for 11 years, for your students, what are they facing on a day-to-day basis? What do you have to deal with? What do they have to deal with every day?
Well, currently we are in a heat advisory in Texas. I don't know if it's made the news where you're at, but it's been over 100 plus degrees for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so
is it still today? Still today? It's August 24th.
No, we're actually like a very cool in our 90s. Like it's a nice cool day for us over here in Texas.
Woo. Wow, that's saying something right there. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we know it's been bad. Everybody knows it's bad.
Yeah, it's been bad. So we've had some natural events that have hit Texas. We've had some winter storms, and we've had some extreme heat. And then when you think about students experiencing homelessness, at a given time, I can have like 10 to 20 families that are living in their cars. So for us, it can be difficult to go out into that hot weather or that cold weather. But if you're facing like an extreme weather condition and you're living in your car, it makes it even harder. It's
almost unsurvivable. It's almost unsurvivable living in your car in that kind of heat. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is. So over here we had 1,045 students experiencing homelessness at the end of last school year. And every year I talk to all of the students and families to see where they're at, and we are kicking off back to school. So I have a resource center that I treat just like I did in my classroom. I didn't have a traditional teacher desk. I kind of just turned my desk around with the drawers and I put food and uniforms and stuff like that. And for my resource center was really just my office space at a central administration building, and I turned it into a portable to have community donations come in and get different, like Nike gives us donations. Try to have new backpacks and top quality school supplies. I think being an educator in the classroom for 10 years just kind of made me very cognizant that some wax crayons don't color, so, we got to get some Crayola in here. And then really it's appointment by appointment, meeting with 200 to 300 students every single month, and just listening to where they're at, which I think is really at the heart of education, is you sit down, you talk to a student, and you see exactly what they need, and they may not need everything that you have, but they may need a few supports. And that has really just been like the secret to my success in working with my students. And in listening to them, pre-COVID, we had hurricanes, we had things happening, and then COVID hit, and our entire landscape of education really changed. And one of the things that I love that came out of COVID, and I know a lot of people don't say that, is this opportunity to do virtual tutoring and make it something that is normal for students. Like, it's normal now to be like, oh, I can get virtual assistance. That's great. So when I first was thinking about this and listening to my families for years and years and years, I have students that are working right after school for 6 or 7 or 8 hours. They can't go to tutoring, right? Or I have students that are, or like any of our kids, that want to get a question answered like 10 minutes before they're supposed to get on the bus to go to school. So you have, or they're working at lunch, like they're really trying to make everything work, but the traditional in-person tutoring didn't really work for my student population pre-pandemic. And it wasn't working as we saw the gaps in education across the U.S. and Texas, my district, everywhere, just kept growing and growing. And so they just really wanted an on-demand, like, I just want to call you. Can I just call you when I'm working on it? And I'm like, well, no, not at 1 a.m, right? Like, that's not going to work. So, like, and I'm only one person and it's 56 schools.
Right.
So I started researching, and I went to a region meeting, and I heard a presentation from Varsity Tutors, and then I was a little skeptical, and I'm a researcher, so I went and really looked into it, and I vetted 20 different companies, like thoroughly vetted them and asked them questions, and I was so thoroughly impressed with being able to offer a 24/7 chat feature for my students, because that's what they had been asking for. Like that.
It's amazing.
So it was really a game changer. And it's English and Spanish. And so in Texas, we also have detention centers where we have a lot of immigration coming in through a lot of different countries, in particular Latin America and South America.
Of course.
About 70% of what we see in our area, but also like the Ukraine, Syria, like anything you're hearing in the news, we see through our state, which is like very interesting, but also can create some challenges. And the great thing about the Varsity Tutors, in particular, what I love more than anything is that in trying it out with my students, because I sit next to my students, because everybody's always very skeptical, like, what is this tool? What are you talking about? I've never used this. And so they sit there, and I was like, it's like raising your hand and getting whatever question you have about your classwork answered in 5 minutes by a teacher. and you don't have to see their face and they don't have to see your face. And they're like, I'm in. So, like, you show them the way, and then they fly on it. And they have so many different things on there. Like, for my college seeking students last year, I was like, you know, you just have to give them your college application essay 48 hours in advance, and they'll edit it for you and send it back. And they were very skeptical because that's very hard.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a very cool feature.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah, and working with my students, I always say, like, you got to hold on to little pieces of hope, and I love dreaming with my students. And so in August, it's heartbreaking to hear the stories of what happened over the summer while we weren't, you know, while the school district was closed and we were doing summer school. Yeah. But then I get all these awesome phone calls from my students that are going into post-secondary. And then I remember what the work was like with those students. Like, there was a student I was telling you about yesterday who was in our foster care program and then our homeless program. We gave him a beat-up computer. He created an AI, and he went to, like, an MIT Caltech on a full-ride scholarship. And it's game-changing right there.
It's game-changing.
Like that. Yeah.
It's
so
like,
getting
it's not
like
game.
a call.
If life is a game, it's life-changing. I mean, it's
life-changing. So it's always fun to get calls from students like that, and they're in the financial aid office, and they're like, okay, like, can you explain, like, how this letter works for verification? I'm like, I'm totally happy to. And they're the students that are considered unaccompanied youth, which means they're not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. And I've had students as young as 4 years old that have fallen into that category, but the majority of them are high school students. And there's a federal law that assists with doing the FAFSA without, like, parent information so you can go to college. And so those are the students that I hear from in August as well. So I have, like, one phone call, and I'm like, okay, we're in a crisis situation. Like, how can we help? How can we support? And then the next phone call is like, I'm in college, and I need a quick question. And it's nice. It's a good, like, juxtaposition for my August.
It is, and I mean, I got so many things to say. First of all, the first thing I'll say is you're going to heaven. I hope you know that. Just so you know that.
I don't know
Mention
about that.
My name.
We'll see.
Mention my name. Oh yeah, you're going. Don't even worry about that. Okay, you're going to heaven. All right. I hope it's a long time from now, but you're going to heaven. Okay, I got to tell you that. Second of all, I want to say about that kid with the Caltech. You know, that's a life-changing experience for the kid, and obviously she is going to be extremely successful. Okay, I hope they get through that and everything else. But the other thing is, and multiply this by thousands. Okay, we did not lose that kid. That's a kid that's going to grow up and become a very productive and inventive member of society. Okay, and it's going to do a lot of good wherever they work, whatever they do, et cetera, et cetera. We won. The kid, not just the kid won. Okay, we all won. Wherever they wind up. Okay, we all won. And that's the essence of what we're trying to do here. Okay, and people have to understand this is something that we can all claim victory on. Thank you very much, Coach Viramontes. Okay, but we can all claim victory. Okay, because the society is better for that child doing better. Okay, I'll say simply, one less person on welfare, one less person getting sick, having challenges, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's just look at the good you did, then take what you do and multiply it by thousands. Okay, and that's the way we gain for all this. You know, you mentioned this yesterday, but I'd like you to mention today, what are the demographics of the kids you work with? And again, we're talking about a very nice school district, about, I think, 20 miles north of Austin or so. Okay, great part of the world. What are the demographics of the homeless kids?
Yeah, sure. So first I want to say, though, when we think about homelessness, a lot of people only think about unsheltered or shelters. So when you're thinking about students that are experiencing homelessness across the United States, it's a more broad definition under the McKinney-Vento Act, and so students could be doubled up living with other families.
Say the name of that act. Wait. Slow down. Say the name of what you just said. Say it slower so people know what that is. I wanted to ask you about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the McKinney-Vento Act. So it is federal legislation that's under ESSA, and it's been reauthorized since 1987 for every single education time that it goes through, like NCLB, No Child Left Behind, and then now we're in the current education one, which is Every Student Succeeds. So the McKinney-Vento Act is a broader definition of homelessness where students are able to get assistance from their schools through, if you're living doubled up, if you are in a motel hotel, if you're in transitional housing. So it's a more all-encompassing definition, and it also includes the unaccompanied youth that I was touching on a little bit earlier, that if you are not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
So it's like a very broad definition, which makes my job really fun because I get to mitigate this pipeline that we have for youth homelessness directly into adult homelessness. And the two big feeders for adult homelessness is foster care and youth homelessness.
Ugh.
So, and the mitigating factor is education. So I feel like I'm at the, in the trenches, the front
you can
line.
make the difference. You're going to make the difference.
Yeah,
and you are
and
making the difference.
We all can inside of education, like for sure. So my students inside of Round Rock ISD across the 1,000, like we see all kinds of different things that, I don't know, Larry, like honestly, like things that our society hasn't always been good at dealing with, like stigmatizing. So homelessness in general, mental health, and then we have overrepresentation of Black and brown students inside of youth homelessness and adult homelessness. So when you're looking at that overrepresentation, like for example, in the state of Texas, there's like, it's 20% Black students in Texas, and then yet inside of our homeless numbers, it's 43%. So when you're looking at that overrepresentation of Black and brown students, you really start to think about, like, what are we really doing to try to create equity in our schools? What are we doing to try to meet the needs based off of the living situations that the students are facing? And extreme poverty is everywhere. Like, not just for students experiencing homelessness, but this term at risk is huge numbers, and they've only increased once the COVID, we had all this COVID funding that was helping families and all that assistance, and then it got pulled off. And so right now the nation is facing inflation, affordable housing crisis, and a lot of pay has not caught up to inflation rates. And so we're seeing more and more families at risk of facing homelessness for the first time in a long time. And then you have a lot of middle-class families that are priced out of buying homes. So families that would traditionally buy homes. So they go in, they get into an apartment, and then that pushes out more families that would have been in those apartments, and the apartment complexes are able to charge more. So it's just this very unique situation that we're in post-pandemic. And I really do think the students just really need the information.
They do.
Yeah, I'll tell my favorite story that I shared with you yesterday. Like just like that information piece, right? So a lot of times people think that there's nothing that we can do, and there's absolutely things that we can do, and it's usually just a conversation and sharing information that we know about. So I got a call. This was probably the third year of the pandemic, and the student was going to graduate a week later. And I went, and this awesome thing was happening that, I love when kids just make their own solutions. But there was a boy who had been homeless when he was 12, and he had never been identified through a school district or anything, but he happened to be a manager at a local burger place, and he decided that he was just going to rent different places inside of the duplex that he was renting for $100 a month so that there wasn't any kids living on the street. So there was 4 kids living in the garage that I went to go visit this student, and we sat there and we had a talk, and while we were talking, I was like, oh, where do you want to go to college? Nobody had talked to her about that. So in 15 minutes, we filled out the FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid. She got full Pell Grant funding. I got her a dress and some shoes for her graduation for the next, so I didn't really have more than an hour of contact with her. But something that I want to point out about this case was that she was a foreign exchange student, and she had a sponsor family, and when she turned 18, they kicked her out of the house. And she was not able to return to her country because her country was not receiving students or was not receiving anybody because of COVID.
Oh, my God.
the resiliency and the amazing thing about the student was that she went into ACC. She kept working at the burger place. She got an apartment, and she made enough money.
What's ACC? What is ACC?
Sure, ACC is Austin Community College. So she went to the local community college.
I knew it was an acronym for something. Yeah, I figured it was a community college. I just didn't know
so
which
many acronyms.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was at the community college. She flew her sister over here, and then she's on right now at a 4-year university, and her sister's at the community college.
Wow.
And that's an hour. And all I did was really sit with her, fill out the federal financial aid, give her some information, and then she touched base with me one more time while she was at the financial aid office that next year and sent me an email when her sister got here. And so sometimes all we really need is one caring individual, somebody to just sit and talk with the student or talk with the family. And we see these cases all the time. Like, you could be at the grocery store and somebody's struggling to pay and they start putting groceries away. I mean, I've seen that myself even when I was 16 years old and I just paid for the groceries. We can, as a society, take care of each other. These aren't things that we don't see all the time. These are things that we definitely see all the time that don't
want to see. Don't want to see. We see them, but we don't.
But you see it anyways.
As I mentioned before, by the way, you're going to heaven. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you don't walk away. You're going to heaven, St. Desiree. I got to tell you, you're just. No,
Larry. No. We all know those situations. You walk, whatever you see, you kind of have this little feeling in the pit of your stomach. And so I think the difference with educators is that we listen to that little feeling, and we're like, okay, I can do something about this little thing. We each have the ability to do something. So you can look in your wallet, right? And we all have gift cards, or a lot of us have gift cards that we're not using that has whatever amount. That could be mailed into my program and be a game changer. I think there was a study that came out. There was a certain amount of gift cards that are never even cashed or used because people just hold on to them or they lose their value, and then who benefits the company?
It's huge. It's a huge amount.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount of dollars. Right.
And, so I just say turn that into something that can help. And with my families and doing the resource center, what I have found, and I have somebody else, a family that we were helping for a couple of years and waiting to get into low-income housing for 4 years. And then we hired her to work here and to share her experience. Yeah. And she went on the news to share the experience and stuff. And so just that whole, she always said, all I really needed was just a tiny bit of help each month. And so the groceries that we provided and the shoes and the backpack was able, just that little bit of assistance that she got with that free lunch portion of it and all the extras was enough for her to stabilize out of living in homeless living situation. So a lot of times we think it's going to be these extra human efforts, and really it's not. It can be a gift card that you donate for HEB so that families can go and get fresh milk or lettuce or, whatever they're into. I had a kid who really loves sweet tea. I was like, okay, we can provide that. That's not a problem.
Gotta love sweet tea. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so a local grocery store, you can get, at a lot of our local grocery stores, you can get gas, you can get pharmacy items, and you can get fresh produce. So to me, that's a support card.
Everywhere. And actually, it's funny you mentioned sweet tea. Up here, nobody orders. I live in Maine, okay, and sweet tea is not on the menu, okay, and it's so much a part of good Southern living, okay, but it's not. In fact, when I order, I always order it unsugared with a sweet and low or whatever the case may be. It's just so funny, the differences. I love the cultural differences between the country. It's just amazing. We've been talking how you interact, and you are just amazing. You interact with the students, but I'm curious. I'm going to ask this two ways. How do you your office interact with varsity tutors, setting up what the tutors need to know for the kids, and then B, also the teachers at Round Rock School District, because you do so much work directly with the kids in your office. How do you coordinate with all the educators, varsity tutors, and all your wonderful faculty over there?
So I call it a network of support. So we've created a network of support, and we have on every single campus, we have direct communication with, and I have a team that helps support all of this effort. We have a team of 4 right now, including myself. But so there are FIT contacts, which my program is called Families in Transition, the FIT program, which is a district homeless program. Yeah. And so each of my FIT contacts on the campus is the pivot, right? The pivot point for the students. It's the person that I connect the kids with directly, and they can get ongoing support. So my FIT contacts are the ones that are going to hand out the weekend food packs to make sure that every meal is covered throughout the week, including the weekend. And then they can also sit there and go through varsity tutors and different academic supports that we offer. So we do book bundles. I do a lot of surveying and focus groups with my families and students to ask what they want and what they need. And then I also just do a lot of research into what is going to create comprehension.
But how do you get all that? How do you get what you do? How do you get what you do into the? I know how you're working with the students, but how are you working with the teachers? Okay.
I mean, it starts with the FIT contact or the registrar or the principal. So they are my assistants. They're my campus direct contacts over there, and they interact and engage with the students on their campus to bridge any gaps that happen at the campus, or to call me if something is needed to get further support. But with varsity tutors, you have, and there's a lot of online tutoring options out there today. So I would say vetting what's going to work best for your school district. I know I have to say that because that's also equity, right? Vetting what's going to work best for your school district. But in partnering with them, it took us 6 months to onboard it. And we make sure that every student has access to varsity tutors within their ClassLink page. So it looks like what you would see on an iPad with apps. That's what they have in their little classroom. Mm-hmm. And so they're able to click on it, and they can go straight to the chat feature, and it'll connect them to a teacher, and everybody that they're connected to there is a licensed, certified, background-checked teacher through Varsity Tutors. They do all of that part of it for you.
I know that.
And then, and then school districts themselves, the vendor process in my district can take 4 to 6 months because it's vetted very, very thoroughly, and everything.
As it should be.
I mean, of course, and that's what you would want, right? Anything that is involving students, that's what you would want. So, and then we even have the ability to see if anything, what's going on in the chats, if the student just logged in. So when we get that login information, and we were first working with Varsity Tutors and getting those reports, then I would go and my teammate would go to the campus and be like, we saw that you logged in. Was there a problem when you were trying to get into Varsity Tutors? And they were like, oh, yeah, I didn't know how to do I didn't know how to do this, or the teacher didn't understand what I was doing. And so we were able to troubleshoot and problem solve so that they were able to use it as a resource. So we saw that as an opportunity, hey, you went and you logged in. What else can we do so that you can actually try it, right?
Yes,
that's
exactly.
the point. Yeah. But when we first launched
I got to tell you something. That's what's really interesting about this, and I always am a big advocate of this. In days past, a lot of these kids, and I don't mean this anywhere. I'm just speaking generally. We'd write these kids off. We got to worry about the other kids. They just get there. We don't do that anymore. That's what really equity is about. We don't do that. Okay, that's just bad. And I think the point I want to make is that if you give these kids the opportunities, if you approach them as serious students with rigorous curriculum and all the help they need considering their situation, a lot of them will shine, okay? And this is what education, this is what teaching is all about, to find those kids who want to learn, who want to do well, who want to be productive citizens, who want to have a nice family and take care of their family, etc., okay, and be good workers in the workplace, whatever profession they choose to be. And it just goes to show you, if you give them the opportunity, they'll rise to the occasion. And you must have learned that over the years.
Honestly, what I've learned is that there's so many people that are inside of a school building, and we're all people, and we all we all gravitate towards different folks. And so Sometimes it could be the cafeteria worker. Sometimes it could be
Absolutely.
the librarian. Sometimes it,
the
and
bus
that's
driver,
all students.
the
Like
janitor,
all of us
whoever,
have those,
the custodian.
Yeah, all of us have those connections, and so it's about doing professional development with everybody that's available at the campus, but also like building capacity with our students. Like, advocate for what you need. Ask me, tell me, give me feedback from what you're doing. I remember we were first doing the weekend food packs, and I was like, who eats Vienna sausage? So I was curious if the kids actually wanted it. And so I have them, and I still do it, I have them break open the food packs, and I'm like, you take what you want and then leave what you don't want. And then I would count what was left. And if stuff never gets taken from the pantry, I'm like, hey, guys, I have about, 200 cans of Vienna sausage. I don't think the kids are into it. And they were like, oh, we had no idea. So they switched it to beef jerky. And now, I have kids that are like, can I take all the beef jerky from the packs? I'm like, no, you can't take all the beef jerky. But it's just little things like that. Like when you empower a student and give them voice, they're going to let you know what they need. Yeah,
That's
and
exactly
it's oftentimes not a big deal. It's not even something that is huge. It can be those little things of connecting a student to the library, which a lot of our students think is a safe place. Like any student I've ever worked with across the 18 years that I've been in education, they go to the library, and the librarian is like this magician who can find a book that they want to read. And they can go in there and they can eat their lunch. Yeah, and so it's just
so
talking to each student and just connecting them with that person on the campus that's going to be like their second home, which is really what education and schools are about, and it's a lot of fun to participate in.
It's where they spend as much time as they do. Desiree, I got to tell you, you are just magic. You are a magical educator, is all I can tell you. And you should be Round Rock, okay, ISD, and you and your team. I mean, they should all be proud of how this is all working out and the good work you do. And I know it's just going to continue. And I can't thank you enough for being here. I mean, you are really something. Thanks, Desiree. Thank you. What can I say?
Larry.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
The opportunity.
You're the best. Let's stay in touch, okay? Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you, I know you've been writing articles about the kind of work you do, and we have a big magazine called Equity and Access. It's up on our site at h-ed.org. If you would like to write for that, and write an article about what you do, we would love it. Just if you would like to do that, just the offer.
I will take a look.
Okay, please do it. Everybody can go over there at ace-ed.org. And what you do is so equity-oriented. We would love to promote your good work and you yourself and what you do for people. I mean, so other districts all across the country can learn from your success. Okay? So just take a look, and maybe we can get that together. Okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, Desiree. You have a great weekend. I know it's a day away, but still have a great weekend and a good school year. Hey, when did school start, by the way?
August 15th for us.
So you're about 10 days in. Congratulations.
Yep.
I hope it's going well. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Bye, Larry.
Have a good one. Thanks, Desiree. Bye-bye. Wow, she's something or what? That's Desiree Viramontes. Okay. I hope I pronounced that right. Coordinator of the Families in Transition Program down at Round Rock ISD near Austin, not Houston. Okay. At Round Rock ISD. And I got to thank my friends at Varsity Tutors, and that's varsitytutors.com. You should learn more. Okay, go over there. This is a very important aspect of education these days. Very, very important. All right, we'll archive over. You guessed it, at ace-ed.org. My name is Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. Thanks so much for listening.